Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4NEWS, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Karo News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And sorry. And today's topic is not only current, but very, very important and very relevant. And the topic is Omicron impact on Indian economy. Excuse me. Economy is the state of a country or region in terms of the production and consumption of goods and services and the supply of money. According to Carabel, we call the economy that we constantly measure with specific numbers wasn't not really invented until the 20th century. It was invented because of the Great Depression. So the government starts calculating out this single official number called national income. It is the forerunner of today's gross domestic product or GDP, and it is basically the value of all the goods and services produced in the country in a year. You need to calculate GDP because if you want help from the World Bank or the United Nations. Adam Smith was an 18th century Scottish economist, philosopher and author, and is considered the father of modern economics. The economic history of India begins with the Indus Valley civilization 3300 to 1300 BCE. The economy appears to have depended significantly on trade and of overseas trade. The Vedic period saw countable units of precious metal being used for exchange. The term Nishka appears in the sense in the Rig Veda. Historically, India was the largest economy in the world for most of the next 3 millennia, starting around the first millennia BCE and ending around the beginning of British Raj. The independent India adopted central planning for most of its independent history with extensive public ownership, regulation, red tape, and trade barriers. After the 1991 economic crisis, the central government launched economic liberalization, allowing it to emerge as one of the world's fastest growing large economies. Since the early 1990s, India has slowly opened up its markets by reducing government control on foreign trade and investment. This was started by Mr. Manmohan Singh under the leadership of Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao. The economic impact of 2020 coronavirus pandemic in India has been largely disruptive. The Omicron variant is a variant of SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. It was first reported to the World Health Organization, WHO, from South Africa on 24th November 2021. On 26th November 2021, the WHO designated it as a variant of concern and named it after Omicron, the 15th letter in the Greek alphabet. The variant has an unusually large number of mutations, several of which are novel and a significant number of which affect the spike protein targeted by most COVID-19 vaccine at the time of discovering the Omicron variant. This level of variation has led to concerns regarding its transmissibility, immune system, evasion, and vaccine resistance. As a result, the variant was quickly designated as being of concern, and travel restrictions were introduced by several countries in an attempt to slow its international spread. Panic has spread across the world after the discovery of Omicron variant of coronavirus, which has been classified as a variant of concern by the World Health Organization, WHO. Top scientists recently issued a warning against the virus, citing its high transmissibility and low vaccine penetration across the globe. Many countries, including India, have been forced to revise travel guidelines in view of the new variant, which was discovered in South Africa. Some countries are even exploring the introduction of fresh curves as more cases surface across the globe. However, top experts believe that the new variant has spread extensively and it is just a matter of time before it is discovered in more countries. While scientists are trying to determine the impact of the highly muted variant of COVID-19, many organizations and experts are worried about how it will affect global trade and economic recovery. Failing to curb the spread of the new variant could lead to a massive spike in the number of global infections, leading to higher hospitalization in nations with low vaccine penetration. Leading economic think tank organizations for economic cooperation and development, OECD, said Western governments could be forced to bring in fresh emergency financial support for businesses and households if the Omicron coronavirus variant triggers a severe global slowdown. The economic impact of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 on emerging economies will depend on a mix of government restrictions, public comfort with social interactions, and capacity of governments and central banks to provide additional policy support to the private sector, Moody's Investor Service said on Wednesday. The emergence of the new variant poses new risks to the global economic growth and inflation outlook as concerns mount about the variant's health risks, and several countries have imposed new travel restrictions in recent days. Time of extreme pain in India economy below 2019 levels, said Nobel laureate Abhijit Banerjee on 4th December 2021 while addressing online students of Ahmedabad University during the university's 11th annual convocation, that is day before yesterday. Now, the situation in India today, that India's vaccination equation is that at the target is 60% of the population with both the doses by December 2021. This target was given by the government of India, and but at the current vaccination rate, 41% of the population will be vaccinated fully by December 2021. So this is a matter of concern in case if these vaccines are going to have effect on this particular variant, which other countries or experts are saying those who have been vaccinated, they may be infected, but the impact will be far less. So now to discuss a very, very important topic, that is Omicron impact on Indian economy, although people said that it is premature to discuss, but it is better, everyone says, and it should be better, prevention is better than cure. If we will be alert now, I think we will not face the situation which we faced in 2020. And that's why we are discussing this topic today. And we have a very elite, knowledgeable, experienced, and those who are authority in this economy, as well as the impact of on Indian economy of this variant. Panelists are with us. And I would like to invite my first panelist guest. He is Mr. Ramnath Pradeep. Mr. Ramnath Pradeep is LLB PG Economics. He is the former chairman and managing director, Corporation Bank. Mr. Ramnath Pradeep has served the banking industry for more than 37 years in various senior positions. His chairmanship in Corporation Bank had brought numerous awards to the bank. He put the bank on world map by taking keen initiative to partner with Commonwealth Secretariat for financing the youth as a social concern under Corporation Bank ComSec Youth Enterprise Financing Program. He has also served as Executive Director of Central Bank of India and was also appointed as Chief Vigilance Officer in State Bank of India and Bank of India. In addition, he had also been associated as Chairman of Corp Bank Securities Limited, Cent Bank Home Limited, Cent Bank Securities Limited, and member of Board of Central Bank of India and ILFS, besides other companies in the area of finance, information technology, Rolta Group, retail chain, Wadia Group, and Being Human, credit rating advisory services, etc. Currently, he is chairman of Messrs. CRAS, CRAAS Capital Advisors and Messrs. Credit Rating and Risk Advisory Services Private Limited. He is a co-author of book Financial Inclusion, Viable Opportunity in Urban India. Welcome, Mr. Ramnath Pradeep on our show. Mr. Ramnath Pradeep, India has seen that how after the second wave, the economy started bouncing back. And although inflation was there, the rates were quite high, but still the people who were during the lockdown, they faced so much crisis. They all wanted to do the business, and so that they all started the business, try to be normal. Rather, in the few sectors, the figure says that it has rebound even more than the pre-COVID time. But again, recently, I think about 10 days back, when we all heard this Omicron variant for the first time, it has come as a shock, not to India, but all over the world. And India has already tried to put some curbs, not all the curbs, but started putting the curbs in different states, as well as for the international passengers, as well as the domestic travelers. And the impact has come on the travel industry immediately. Gradually, other industry may or may not be affected, that we are going to discuss today. So, Mr. Ramnath Pradeep, we would like to know from you your views on Omicron impact on Indian economy. Mr. Ramnath Pradeep, please.
Thank you very much, Goel sir. Our colleague panelist, Dr. Patnaik and Mr. Kannan. It's a pleasure, always pleasure to be with Mr. Goel when he has already explained. There was nothing to be left out to us while explaining Mr. Goel what is the scenario, present scenario of the economy in India, and how the COVID has impacted the economy and how the present situation is in the economy. So I will only supplement what Mr. Goel has visualized and Mr. Goel has already presented. As of today, if we go back to 2020, when the COVID first struck, what was our position and how at the present level, how we have come out, how we got impacted, and how we are in a position to come out this, whether now with the new variant which has come, COVID variant, whether this will be able to sustain the economy, or there will be setback in certain sector which may get impacted. Now let us go back to the position of when it got stuck for the first time during the March 2020. At that particular time, whether the India was ready to sustain or ready to absorb this shock? No. At that time, even infrastructure in terms of the medical infrastructure, health infrastructure, in terms of the IT sector, in terms of other various sector of the industry, various sector of which is contributing to GDP, was probably not ready with the situation which as of today we are going to face. Similarly, when the second wave came, at that particular time, whether we were ready to do what was our economy at that particular time, and how we have been able to overcome those issues, and today where we stand today. So I'll start with the 2020, when the first time COVID struck, and what was the economy. At that time, the economy was growing at the rate of 6.5%, below 6%. In fact, in some of the, the article, it says it was growing around 4%. But I'm taking an average of which our government people has been saying that our economy was growing around 5 to 6% at that particular time. And at that particular time, we also projected that we are going to have our economy to the tune of around 5 trillion by 2024, 2025. In one of the early, during the time of May, around, our Honorable Prime Minister has announced that we are going to have a 5 trillion economy by 2024. Now, when the COVID struck, at that particular time, our infrastructure side, particularly infrastructure in terms of your health infrastructure, was not ready. We were not ready, and therefore there was a compulsion and forced lockdown. In fact, if their lockdown was not there, probably casualty in terms of death and other things would have been much more. But the lockdown has provided opportunity to create and health infrastructure. So that has taken care. As of today, that health infrastructure which was created in 2020, which continued to be there in 2020-21, and as of today, has been also continue to be there. So we are much more prepared in terms of health infrastructure. Now coming back to during this 2020, there was a lot of fear psychosis was created. And because of that, certain sector of the employee, like workers, there was a flight of a worker from their existing area. They have gone to their hometown. Now today, the situation, all those people who have left during that particular time has come back. Even second COVID also has not impacted that much plight of majority of the people in the labor sector has come back to their original position as of say before March, before COVID period. That situation has a lot improved. As of today, if I compare with that, people are not talking in terms of that. People are talking in terms of how to maintain and sustain. So today the situation is that we are able to sustain that health infrastructure. We are able to retain our employee. Secondly, during that particular area, because of this reason, our infrastructure has suffered. Education has suffered because of this, because after a long time we have been able to start the online classes. So all those industry, particularly service industry, which was at that particular time suffered on account of lockdown, in 2020, 21 second wave, and as of today, people are not afraid of. As of today, there is a fear psychosis which has been created, but people are not taken as if this is going to continue and let us take this. The problem as of today we are facing is that in spite of the restrictions imposed by various government in terms of COVID behavior, how to move in the market, why should we not go sanitizing our hands and other things, which are the basic social everybody should employ, which is not being strictly followed. Now today, whatever the industry at that time also suffered on account of that, airlines industry was most sufferer at that particular time, and this is going to suffer because of restriction being, traveling instructions being imposed. So one industry is going to suffer is airlines industry continue to be suffering. Second is hospitality industries, restaurant. As of today, if you go to any of the restaurant and hotels, they are full of the people. But the restrictions which are being imposed in terms of appropriate behavior about people movement and other things, probably this is taken care, and the impact in the economy, which was earlier, we felt it in 2020, 2021, early second wave, may not be felt as of today. Secondly, the government, the steps taken by the government on a various front has also prevented as of today, and that is where the fear cycles which is in the mind of the people is not visible as of today. But there is a more precaution is required. I think government of India as well as all the state government is aware of the situation, and they are taking all proactive action. Now today there is no preventive action. This action preventive has already been taken. Now today proactive action is being taken, not to face the same situation as the country has faced during the 20 and 2021, early 2021. So according to me and according to my, there is no, as of today, there is absolutely no fear psychosis is happening in the earlier one, and that will prevent us from the economy going down. But certain sectors certainly, like tourism industry is going to suffer. Anything associated with the travel agency is going to suffer. That will continue because the restrictions are imposed. People will not be allowed to freely go. But my other sector of economy, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of services sector, these sectors will not suffer. I am sure that we will be able to maintain our GDP growth, which is there already 6. Now, last month only the GDP growth was projected around, we have reached to the level about 8.4%, which are likely to increase. That is what projected. And I think as of today, all the government machineries, maybe RBI, all regulators are fully aware of and geared up to handle the situation on account of new variant which has come into picture. and reasonable restrictions are being imposed by the state government, by the central government, which should be expected. But at the same time, I appeal to the public and public at large. They should also adhere to the the various guidelines which are being issued by the state government, central government, while dealing with the people, while dealing traveling to the economy, because this may also impact export side. Because if this is going to be a little bit severe, export is going to be impacted. It may result into slowdown to some extent the import, because the export may get impacted. So this is one area. Education side is still continue to be classes are going on, so education will not. Health sector is resilient as of today, and it will continue to take care of health infrastructure. So according to me, and I feel that we are fully geared up to handle this situation, and we may not face the same situation which India has felt it in 2020 and early 2021. And this will result into maintaining the GDP growth. I don't think, except the few sectors which I have already elaborated in terms of travel airlines industry, rest of the industry, I don't think they are going to suffer, and they will continue to contribute to the growth of the GDP. And and secondly, why this is I'm saying, because the vaccination percentage in India is a little higher as compared to any other nation. If vaccination, and it is proved, that is what the experts are talking about, health experts are talking about, those who are fully vaccinated, the impact of this particular variant may not impact much. It is going to have, but it may not impact that. So that giving a little bit more confidence among the people that who are vaccinated, and there is efforts are required to see that the maximum number of the population who are eligible for to be vaccinated, they should be fully vaccinated. There are certain section of the society who are still not following the vaccination, that they get fully vaccinated. So these are the things which state government and central government must put, and people should be penalized who is not following these instructions. So this is the one area which needs to be accelerated in terms of the vaccination side. And now people are talking about the extra vaccination which is required to be done, booster vaccination. Probably if we are in a position, people are talking about in terms of the booster the vaccination that will come. Probably the central government and state government both are aware of, and they are the steps are being taken how to implement that booster point of view. So according to me, Mr. Goel, I feel that we are well prepared to address such type of situation, though there will be some setback in certain industry, particularly the travel industry, airline industry, and hospitality industry, to a very and their contribution in the economy is there. But I'm not saying that they will be totally they stop everywhere. So as of today, we are well prepared to address the situation which is going to come. So we'll go along.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramnath Pradeep, for giving your views. And Mr. Ramnath Pradeep feels that apart from the travel or the hospitality industry, the other industries will not suffer much. Rather, they will be doing well. And according to him, we are geared up. Only thing is, for which he has appealed and which he has rightly appealed, he says the people are not adhering to the COVID norms or the protocols which we should have, whether wearing the mask or hand sanitization or keeping distance, physical distance. But we are not doing this. Gradually, what we have seen normally in everywhere. But what he says is, because our economy earlier pre-COVID time was about 4 point something or 5 point something, there was lots of confusion, but between 4 to 6%, whatsoever we'll take. But he says afterwards, after the COVID part 1 or the wave 1, then COVID wave 2, wave 1 migration was very much, the migrant laborers have gone, but in next phase, it was not that much. But now, according to him, no signs are there visible as of now whether these types of the migration labor will go back. If they will go back, they will migrate again, then definitely it will impact the other industries. Otherwise, other industries will be working. Only one thing I would like to just mention, Mr. Pradeep has mentioned that Indian vaccination percentage is very high for to vaccination. No, it is not high. Rather, we are in a very, very low. We are going to have about 41% by December, while UK has already achieved 80% of the those who have been giving 2 doses, and now they are in the booster dose, and they are claiming, rather they are projecting that by January 2022, by end of January 22, all above 18s will be having booster dose also. So that is a matter of concern in India, which we will discuss afterward. But Mr. Ramnath Pradeep is very positive. He says the ways the things are going on, and in case if, because nobody knows whether even the scientists are saying every day, the experts are saying on the media that we have to wait for 1 week more, see how this variant will work, because right now the thing is that it is having more transmissibility than the earlier one, but whether it will be that much serious, or its fatality rate will be more or not, that depends, and what will be the reaction, because those countries who already have so much high vaccination, complete vaccination, and India, which is because of the population, one side we say, but if we compare with China, our population is less than China, but still we have achieved about 120 crore plus vaccination. That is also a big thing. But anyway, we will see to it. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramnath Pradeep, for giving your views.
Thank you.
I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he is Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik. Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik is the former Managing Director, Indian Railway Finance Corporation. But Dr. Patnaik is a strong visionary, multidisciplined management professional, and with over 3 decades of rich and varied experience across government departments and public sector enterprises of India. He belongs to the 1989 batch of Indian Railways Account Services. Dr. Patnaik completed his master's in applied geology from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT ISM, in 1985. He did master's in public management from Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, in 2005. He did doctor in philosophy, PhD in management from Birla Institute of Technology, Mesra, Ranchi, in 2019. Apart from holding key positions in Indian Railways from 1989 to 2013, Dr. Patnaik has the distinctions of holding key management positions in the state and central public sector enterprises for nearly a decade, both on deputation and on absorption. After taking voluntary retirement from Indian Railways in 2013, Dr. Patnaik joined Heavy Engineering Corporation as Director Finance 2013 to 2017, and then as Managing Director of Indian Railway Finance Corporation 2017 to 2018. For his exemplary work in office automation and computerization, Dr. Patnaik was decorated with the prestigious Railway Minister's Award in 1999. In his last assignment as MD IRFC in 2017, Dr. Patnaik achieved a unique milestone by taking the lead to raise $500 million for the Indian Railways at a competitive price through issue of climate bonds, certified green bonds in the overseas market, which incidentally is first of its kind for the railway transportation sector in an emerging economy like India. Right now, he is pursuing his own ideas and passion for institution building and academics. Welcome, Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik, on our show. Dr. Patnaik, you have heard what Mr. Ramnath Pradeep has mentioned. And Mr. Ramnath Pradeep is quite positive, and he says if such type of variant which has come now, and if it is not going to show more seriousness, then the economy will not be having that much impact, which we have seen in the first wave or the second wave of our COVID-19. Now, we would like to know from you your views on Omicron impact on Indian economy. Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel, for giving me this opportunity again to be part of your media panel. I extend my heartful thanks to you. At the same time, I'm quite elated to discuss on a topic which is a real concern for the whole world. And since we are going to talk something about the Indian economy or India as a whole, how the Omicron variant is going to impact the economy in different spheres of activities. Okay, let me come to the point first. Omicron is a variant of concern. Who has already declared it? The type of impact it's going to make in the health sector, and accordingly, it has already warned all countries to be prepared to face the inevitable. Now, this emergence of the new variant comes during a period when the whole world is in the midst of a fragile economic recovery, stressed supply chains, elevated inflation, and shortages in the labor market. Now, the threat of the new COVID variant, Omicron, looks rather ominous for the Indian economy as well. But point is that, as Mr. Ramnath Pradeep has rightly said, do we need to press the panic button, or should we remain a little positive to see that the country is in a position to withstand the impact of the Omicron in whatever way it comes? I was just going through some of the tweets of some great persons, and one tweet which really impressed me was about Mr. Uday Kotak, the CEO and the MD of Kotak Bank. He, within quote unquote, Omicron variant is a scare today, and something else is going to be a scare tomorrow. People, markets, and policymakers worldwide will shoot from the hip in crisis management without data. Welcome to the never normal world we live in. I think he has rightly tweeted with a positive, positive feeling that yes, the new variant has come. Like the first wave, it came up with a variant nobody had really predicted how it's going to behave. So there was enough reason for the fear psychosis to be there with the population world over. And then the second one, when it came, there also, it was quite unpredictable. Nobody knew that the Delta variant will cause so much of scare and damage to the economy all over the world. And particularly the Delta variant was really very severe on the Indian economy, as we saw many casualties happening all around the country, and the effect almost remained for almost like a couple of months, or more than 2 months, I can say. It's like first quarter of the 2021 and some part of the second quarter also, the fear psychosis was very much there. By the time we came to control the Delta variant, the third variant, which scientists were expecting it will come sometime in September and October, and now it has been delayed. But then Omicron, which originated from a South African country like Botswana in 24th November 21, today it is spreading its tentacles all over the world. Now, as of today, you will find almost like 40 countries the COVID variant cases are being reported. India too has reported almost like 17 cases till date. And there's every possibility that this variant is going to be spreading all over the country. But then the question remains whether we should press the panic button like we have done it in the first phase, where there was lockdown for a stressed period, and which really impacted the Indian economy for almost more than a year or so. Because if you look at the GDP in 2021, it was there was a contraction to the extent of almost like 7.5%. Now, if you look at this year, even though the second Delta variant was quite prominent all over, and everyone was expecting that the economy is going to suffer for a long time, but it didn't happen. As Mr. Ramnath has said, by that time, the fear psychosis of most of the people have gone, even though there was casualties all over the country. The economy has opened by that of time. The labor force which has run out from different metropolis to their own places, they have returned back, and the economy was picking up. The construction sector was picking up. The manufacturing sector was also picking up, although at a tepid place. Indian economy has emerged during the second wave. To be very emphatic, that the first quarter growth only shows that 20.1% growth, even though that COVID impact was there, but then the economy has grown. There was consumption happening both from the government and the private level. And the second quarter, ending say September, it has gone up to, it has no doubt come down, but it's remained almost like 8.4%. If you compare this figure with the last year at the same time, then there is definitely a tremendous improvement in the Indian economy in 2020 and the first quarters of 2021. Now the question is that whether the third quarter and fourth quarter is going to sustain in the same way to achieve a level of around 9% as the economists have predicted. Well, it all depends, as Mr. Goel has rightly said, it all depends on how the government is prepared to come with a policy formulation, and then how the public is going to behave, keeping all the statutory norms in place. And third thing, overall, how the economy, which has already made a rebound, is responding to the panic button. So it will be a admixture of all three, from government, from public end, from the industry end. And it will be very interesting to see how the next 2 quarters is going to perform. So India, in fact, has the fastest pace of growth among the major economies in the world in the last 2 quarters. And if you are able to sustain this momentum, there is no need to get panicky, and will be very comfortable to that extent. If you look at the government initiatives on the fiscal front or the RBI initiative on the monetary front, so far it is going well, although there is a concern of inflation, and government is also trying to respond it appropriately from time to time. But we should not be so much over optimistic on this front. The growth numbers which you see now for the first quarter and the second quarter need to be interpreted with caution, as the growth in the first 6 months of the financial year was mainly due to the lower base in the same period of the last year. Now let's look at the recovery which has happened in the Indian economy. Has all sectors rebounded back or bounced back to normalcy? No. Even today, if you see, because of the Omicron scare, the travel and tourism sector, which was about to pick up, as again going to a morbid state. Apart from the travel tourism, the restrictions in the entertainment sector, like the cinema halls, the multiplexes, although the government has relaxed it, but there is people are behaving very cautiously, and the entertainment plus the restaurant industry are yet to pick up fully. Now, apart from this thing, if you come to the manufacturing sector also, things are not that rosy. Auto sectors are languishing. Overall manufacturing sector, particularly the MSMEs, they are yet to recover fully. But the best part of Indian economy is that during the COVID time, the farming sector did exceedingly well. And just during the second wave also, the 21st 2 quarters of this year, the India's strong point, which is service sector, is doing quite well. Of course, the e-commerce and IT sector, all through the first wave and second wave, they were doing quite well. So if you see the recovery which has happened in case of India, is a mixed recovery. Some sectors are still languishing and some sectors are doing well. Now, if you remember, when we had a session in the first wave, the economists were talking about different types of recovery. Now, if you plot the recovery in a graph, it will either show as a V-shaped recovery, or it will show as a U-shaped recovery, or L-shaped recovery, or W-shaped. These are the four options they were giving. Okay, well, after the COVID, the economy in different countries will bounce back in a different ways. So in case of India, they were predicting it should be like a V-shaped or a U-shaped recovery. The worst case scenario, like L-shaped recovery, they have totally outruled. And some of them are also saying there may be a W-shaped recovery if the lockdowns are taking place again and again. But fortunately for India, the lockdowns didn't have much of effects in the second wave. And third wave too, we can be optimistic that the lockdowns impact will not be there, as the variant, Omicron variant, is yet to prove the fatality for the population. So the double dip recession is also outruled. V-shaped scenario is totally outruled, because now the economists say most of the countries are recovering in the K-shaped recovery. Hence, basically, if you see this K-shaped recovery is something new innovation by the economists in the COVID context. The K-shaped recovery says that some part of the economy will go up and some part of the economy. Basically, the sectoral, it will have an impact on the different sectors, and that's exactly what is happening in Indian economy. Well, the farming sectors, some part of the manufacturing sectors dominated by the public sectors, or say the large private players, they are doing quite well, but MSMEs and the travel tourism, hospitality, auto sectors, and the best part of the manufacturing sectors are not doing quite well. So it is basically a K-shaped recovery which is happening for India. For some countries, some other countries in the Europe and America also, the same thing is happening. Now, while it is too early to predict the impact of Omicron strain, the cost of lockdowns has been falling as they become more targeted and shorter. If you start looking back from the second wave and now also, lockdowns are not there. There are restrictions where the state governments are acting, basically going by the Omicron infections. They are trying to isolate those places. So entire lockdown in the economy, in the country is totally ruled out, like it happened in the first phase. So it is going to be, the restrictions are going to be much easier, even though the Omicron starts behaving in a different way altogether. And in my own assessment, the economy is not going to languish as it happened in the first wave. K-shaped recovery, which is happening now, this momentum will continue. The panic button, which has already been pressed by with the response by the Sensex coming down, the market going down. So that's not going to happen in case of the economy. The economy is already on a move. Now, the momentum may be decelerated, or it may remain same, may not be accelerated during this Omicron scale. This is my feeling for the Omicron's impact on the Indian economy.
Okay.
Government has adopted.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Government has adopted a very cautious approach so far, and it's good that they are making a cautious approach, because there's a lot of political stake in play. 2-3 states are going for election, and something wrong happens, like it happened in the second wave, the government will also be in a problem. So government is very cautious, and they are hoping that the recovery will be aided by the opening of the economy, which is really fueling the consumer demand and festive demand. RBI's initiative is quite good so far, because they want to make a consumption-based economy, so they have kept the interest rate low so far. But due to the inflation, they may moderate this interest rate in the months to come. Key sectors such as manufacturing and services are, however, going to be spooked by the uncertainty of the spread of virus, high input cost, and poor demand. One thing you must have observed, why the manufacturing sector all over the world is not doing well, because the supply chain disruptions which happened in the first phase and the second phase is really making a big impact on the industry all over the world, because most of the industries, they operate on a global basis, most of the MNCs, and everywhere there is a shortage of raw materials. Either there is a shortage of raw materials, or wherever the inputs are available, the costs are very high. Decline in the automobile demand is continuing, and it is going to continue for next 2 years to come. And the supply chain challenges will be there. You must have heard about company like Apple, who have got a very good supply chain network all over the globe. They too are getting affected by the chip shortages. Auto sectors India are badly affected by the chip shortages. Real estate, however, is a bright spot on the back of easier access of credit on lower interest rate. No doubt, the Omicron has the economies and industry sitting on the tenterhooks. If economies are forced to go into a lockdown once again, it's bound to derail the green shoots of recovery in India and across the world. Now, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, they have done quite a good analysis on the global economic recovery post-COVID phase 1 and phase 2, stage 1 and phase 2, which of course was disrupted due to battered supply chains. And there was overall severe blow to the demand of goods and services, which led to higher inflation. But the chief economist, Mr. Lawrence Boone, is of the opinion that there may be two scenarios which may come with this Omicron. In scenario 1, more of the supply side disruptions will be there, and it can prolong for a longer period, leading to higher inflation for a long time to come. A scenario 2, if governments are going for a mobility restrictions, resulting in the decline in demand, there will be, of course, the decline in inflation, but then the GDP is going to suffer. At this point of time, governments should consciously play a very key role, fiscal support role in sustaining the economic recovery. And that's exactly what India is trying to do. They are going for a mix of fiscal and monetary policies, so that the economy, which is already on the momentum, should be sustained in the next two sectors as well, so as to keep a momentum of growth rate of around 9% or so. But let's come to the export part of it. Overall export trade has already been impacted badly, and with this Omicron also, it is going to be affected most. If you come to India, there is a record trade deficit during so far 2021. Even now also there is a trade deficit is to the extent of $23.2 billion. And this current account deficit is going to widen to almost like 3.33% in the third quarter from the existing 1.4% of the first quarter. So overall scenario for India is going to be very challenging, even though the GDP has picked up the momentum. And Mr. Goel has rightly said, if I would like to sum up, I'll always say that it is dependent on how the government is going to act with the restrictions, and how the public comfort will be there with social interactions. And finally, how the governments and the central banks provide the additional policy support to the private sector. But the need for the hour from policy perspective is to shift towards localization. That's what was the, what the the call during the fast 12, there should be shift towards localization instead of going for urban centric policies. The government should go for the localized and rural development policies. There should be also emphasis on the caste conservation. And as we can see in the last 2 years, the supply chain disruptions has really shaken the world. Now each of the countries should come up with some new innovation in the supply in order to maintain or revive the supply chain resilience. And that is where whichever country comes forward with all these on these three fronts, they are going to do better on the economic front. And I am quite confident, very optimistic of the fact that India with a mix of Indian government with a mix of fiscal and monetary policies are going to do well, and the GDP is going to be sustained for the Indian economy. This is all what I would like to opine. Thank you, Mr. Goel.
Thank you, Dr. Patnaik, for giving your views. And Dr. Patnaik is quite optimistic about the Indian economy. He says that with the mix of Indian economy, the way the government is handling, he says that it will sustain the GDP. Although he has mentioned about the panic button, he says if the panic button is still not been put, so that people are still doing the works. And he has mentioned how the economy suffered. And he has given a very big point today. He says that the economy in India is now in K-shape, because last time we remember when we were discussing the first or second wave, everyone was talking about the V-shape recovery or the W-shape recovery or U-shape recovery. But this time the K-shape recovery, and what he explained is that the K-shape recovery means that some sectors are doing well and some sectors are not doing well. So that's why it is like a K-shape recovery. So according to him, it is a mixed bag. It's not that although we are sitting on such a thing that tomorrow, in case if this particular variant, the Omicron, shows some severity, then definitely our economy will suffer, as per all other countries will also suffer. But if not, then definitely we may sustain. Although he has also raised a point about the shortage of chips, for which the automobile industries is facing very badly, and what is going to happen if this, because some travel restrictions or the restrictions in other countries, then what will happen to the further procurement of those chips. So all these things, he says that although we are trying our best, but still lots of miles to go. Let's see what is going to happen. It's too early to say. Thank you very much, Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik, for giving your very, very clear views. Now I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he is Mr. R. Kannan. Mr. Kannan is the corporate advisor and keynote speaker. He is ex-TCS, ICICI Bank and Hinduja Group. Mr. R. Kannan is an expert in finance and strategy with more than 35 years experience, and during his career as a management consultant and as a member of corporate headquarters in various corporates, including TCS and PwC as management consultant, Hinduja Group as VP and head of strategy, ICICI Infotech as EVP and head of strategy, ICICI Bank Group as EVP strategy. At present, he is providing corporate and economic advisory services focusing on central government, state governments, and corporates, including MSMEs. He is a mentor for startups under ADB programs. He carried out assignments relating to corporate finance, fundraising, treasury management, strategy formulation and implementation, organization restructuring, corporate performance management, business development, and mergers and acquisitions. In his last role, he was heading the In his last role, he was heading the corporate performance monitoring and research function at the group level in Hinduja Group, dealing in aspects relating to planning, budgeting, performance monitoring, business development, M&A, and global economic and industry research. He is a member of expert committee in CII, FICCI, Bombay Chambers of Commerce and Industries, and Indian Merchants Chambers on committees relating to foreign private equity industry, economy, banking, transportation, and environment. He was a member of National Task Force on Artificial Intelligence of CII. He had attended programs organized by World Bank, International Institute of Finance, Asian Development Bank, AIIB on international finance. He has spoken in seminars on union budget, Indian economy, banking and management at annual CFO and management conferences as a speaker in various forms. He was in the jury of selecting best CFOs in India. He was a member on the board of studies of SIES School of Management for 5 years and member of Academic Advisory Council in Birla Institute of Management Technology, Greater Noida for 7 years. Now he is member of Advisory Council of Bhavan's K.M. Munshi Institute of Advanced Studies and Voxen School of Management, Hyderabad. He was the president of 75-year-old Bombay Tamil Sangam for 3 years. He is a visiting faculty in leading management institutes on finance, strategy, organization, structuring, and turnaround management. He has a personal interest in global and Indian economy and shared his ideas on economic development and economic crisis with the government stakeholders from across the world, and some of the recommendations on crisis resolution and economic development were implemented by the government authorities across the world and Indian government. He has received several awards from different organizations. Welcome, Mr. R. Kannan, on our show. Mr. Kannan, you have heard what Mr. Ramnath Pradeep and what Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik has spoken, and both have given their views. Mr. Ramnath Pradeep is very, very positive, and he says Indian economy is doing well and it will accept the sectors of hospitality and travel. Dr. Patnaik, although he is also optimistic, but he also used the caution, and he says there are few sectors which are not doing well and few sectors are doing well, in which even he has included the automobile sector is not doing well because of the shortage of chips. So now, you being a person who is having quite knowledge about the corporate functioning, the government functioning, MSMEs, etc., etc., definitely we would like to know your views on Omicron impact on Indian economy. Mr. R. Kannan, please.
Thank you, Sri Goel, for giving me this opportunity. I'm very happy to be with the panel where Dr. Ramnath Pradeep and Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik are also members. I'm very happy to hear the views of both Dr. Ramnath Pradeep and Dr. Patnaik. They have covered a lot of ground. So coming to this virus, what we find that we are told that it has got 50 mutations. So that is one of the major issues. Whereas Delta, it had only 25 mutations. And as you're all aware, it all started with South Africa. But I was reading some detailed reports on how South Africa is doing on this front. And as we are all aware, about 8 to 9 million people in South Africa were affected by HIV and AIDS. So they were taking a lot of medicines, something on the similar lines for a long time. And they also got very good laboratories which can do the testing. So coming to India, and as it was mentioned, already organization like OECD, they have downgraded the global forecast by a little bit, I think maybe 0.1 or 0.2%. And IMF said that they might also reduce the economic forecast for the world. So this already we are hearing. And we heard what is the likely impact on various industries. One of the major issues when you talk about this virus is, it started in the beginning also, whether it is lives or livelihoods, which are more important. And especially when it started in India, when we announced lockdowns, we saw that there were also a lot of deaths, not due to virus, but due to poverty. One good thing which has happened was, I was just going through the statistics of poverty in India. It's really commendable, the work we have done in the last many years. The poverty level in India is very low, but at the same time, the government decided to support 80 crore people who are ration card holders, and they are being given free food. And we were told that they will be given free food till Diwali. Now what we hear is that this scheme has been extended to end of March. And what we also found, thanks to the higher excise duty collection and cess by government on petrol and diesel, the fiscal position of Indian government actually became much better than what it was forecast. Which central government was even able to give a reduction in the duties of both petrol and diesel. Now, government has announced they have sought approval in the parliament for additional 3 lakh crores of expenditure for the remaining period of the year. Because so far, whatever we see in terms of fiscal performance of the government, it is much better than expectations of the government as well as the economists. So government is feeling that maybe they are in a comfortable situation. So that is the time we heard about this pandemic, this virus. And of course, like Sri Goel said, they are too early days. One good thing is that so far, no deaths due to this virus. But the symptoms from this virus are totally different from what we have seen earlier. No fever, no symptoms and all that, but it still, but it spreads very fast. I believe after this virus has come, in South Africa, they see even children being affected and all that. So that is a cause for concern. So coming to economy, like I said, the question is lives or livelihoods. Like it was clearly explained by Dr. Ramnath Pradeep, we have learned, we have not faced this type of crisis earlier. So after the March 2020, central government as well as state governments learned how to manage a crisis of this kind. In fact, we did not have any well-defined protocols, and at different points we had different issues. At one time, the vaccines were not available. At one time, suddenly there was a big oxygen demand. Then we said that the first wave is gone. So governments went and closed the centers. Then the second wave came. So they had to reopen the centers. So now at least the governments have got some kind of experience in managing this. This I will relate to the 2008 crisis and 2020 crisis. In 2008 crisis, no developed country in the world also had a procedure for how to manage a crisis. So in the next 3-4 years, they went and developed a procedure for managing a crisis of that order. So by 2012, 2013, so they are all able to manage somehow through various new measures. So when this crisis came, 2020, all the developed countries, according to one estimate, the stimulus given by US government is almost close to 25%. And European government, as a government as a whole, they raised a bond, which is a common bond for all the countries, 750 billion euros. So they raised, this is all based on the experience they had in the 2008 crisis. So what we are also hearing is that most of these countries also have got a lot of stock of these vaccines. Even in India also, I was just looking at some statistics. Now the vaccines available at the central government level and state government levels are very high. I don't know, Sri Goel was saying that by December we'll cross some number. But I remember reading somewhere that already we have vaccinated 50% of people in full, and some 80% they have got the first vaccination. And again, when I was reading about global vaccination availability, in a day, there are 55 million doses being produced. 55 million doses being produced. And good thing is that we are also hearing about Pfizer and Moderna and all that, where they are all protein-based vaccines. And I was told that some of these vaccines which are yet to be approved by Indian government, they will be very effective against a virus like Omicron. Yeah. So we have, what has happened is that in the last 1.5 years also, lot of research was being undertaken across the world on finding new forms of vaccines. And we are told that, I even heard that maybe Covaxin may be more effective for the new variant, for this Omicron. And I was reading somewhere that this Pfizer, Moderna, and all these vaccines may be more effective. And of course, the effectiveness can be seen only when it is being administered. It's too early days. I was reading that on November 12th, actually, the first case was found and it was reported as the date mentioned by Shri Goel. But South Africa has got a good infrastructure for analyzing. But if you come to India, one of the major issues is that as of today, we don't have the kits for analysis. You take a state like Maharashtra. Maharashtra, I believe only 2 districts have got the kits, the 2 on a very, very small number. So only institute in Pune, the Virology Institute, that can do fast, and one chemical institute. So right now, since it is too early, the days are very early, and even for diagnosis, but based on the experience we had last year, we should be able to ramp up this very fast. Right now, I think only one company is importing a kit. The governments are issuing a kit for 45 rupees to check that missing of S gene. And only one company is importing this kit. It's called Thermo Fisher from USA. That costs 250 rupees. So if you use this diagnosis, then you will be able to really say that whether these people are having a general, that COVID or Delta or this new virus. So based on that, now what the governments are focusing on is to give priority to those who might have this new virus, the new variant. So they are told all the institutions, testing institutions and the hospitals, that if people with these kind of symptoms are found, then they have to be treated very fast. So what I can say is that the preparedness, the level of preparedness of the government is quite good. Second is that infrastructure for manufacturing vaccines is very good. Third, as it was clearly emphasized by both my earlier speakers, that only one thing which can save all of us is self-discipline from all of us. So we have to have that COVID appropriate behavior. So coming to economy, so this as far as, so still it is too early days, and it might take 1 or 2 weeks to see how this virus is spreading. One. Second is what is the impact of the virus, whether it will be as severe as what we saw the first time, where it will lead to death or something. And we also have to see, since the people are talking about this Pfizer, Moderna and all, if people are going to be administered with these medicines, how far they will be effective. But one thing which I think I was reading in Lancet or somewhere, Lancet, they were saying that apart from the individual behavior, one thing is that vaccination has to be done in full. And of course, now developed countries also have got lot of stock. So now they are talking about booster dose. And India also now they are thinking of giving a booster dose to people above 40 years. And coming to economy, obviously it is going to have an impact. What we see in the last 3-4 days, the stock markets are behaving very badly. And there are many IPOs which are in the queue. And we saw in the case of Star Health Insurance, which is supported by a leading investor like Junjanwala, it was not able to mobilize the funds that they planned. So people are expecting similar problem in terms of raising funds. And apart from that, we also expect that the US government, instead of start increasing the interest rates by the end of next year, they will start raising it from the middle of the next year, where they also see inflation. But of course, Europe will take one more year to go. But the new fear is that if they are going to have lockdown in all these countries, we are all aware, a country like China, they are very, very strict. They don't allow foreigners to come inside. And that is also affecting their export performance in a big way, creating opportunities for others. But we might see some kind of the trend happening in some of the developed countries where they will say, just now people started opening the air travel. And by the time they started opening the air travel, this new virus has come and affected the sentiments of people as well as the strategies of governments. So if we have to at least not lose a big growth in GDP, there's bound to be some amount of loss in GDP growth. But if you have to do this, like what government has done now, they announced a 3 lakh additional package. They're planning to spend 3 lakh additional money towards the expenditure, which is certainly going to create demand. One is that capex. What I was reading, a company like Goel India is planning to spend almost 1,50,000 crores on capital expenditure to increase the capacity to 1 billion tons a year. 1 billion tons a year. Similarly, there are plans by leading public sector companies like IOC, HPCL. So all these companies have drawn up big capital expenditure plans. This is apart from the government spending 38% more on capital expenditure this year, which will be 5,50,000 crores. So that itself is a very good demand creation possibility. And second is that this after the pay commission and all, among all the employee categories in India, the government employees in a better position where their jobs are secured, their salaries have gone up, their savings have gone up. So the government has to find ways and means by which these people can be encouraged to spend more money in the economy. Third, we heard from Mr. Birla, Mr. Kumaramangalam Birla, that now companies have started looking at spending on capex. Right now, as we are all aware, last year after the crisis, many of the large companies went and stopped their capital expenditure. And what they also did was that they went and reduced the cost. And with the savings they made, they were able to repay the debt. So actually, the balance sheet and health of many of the large companies have been very strong now. So they'll be even in a position to face any type of crisis which might come. The only segment which has to be taken care of is MSME. I know in MSME, many units are closed today. And of course, the government now says that out of the target they given, already 3 lakh crore have been sanctioned under that MSME loan. That has happened. But still, I know many of the MSMEs are outside the banking system. So they are under stress. So that is one area maybe government has to start looking at and addressing that part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kannan, for giving your views. I would just like to clarify one thing. We just mentioned about the vaccination thing. This is the report on ndtv.com, which I can send to you. India's vaccination equation: at the current vaccination rate, 41% of the population will be vaccinated by December 2021. Aim: stop a third wave. Target: 60% of population with both doses by December 2021. Required vaccination rate per day is 27.5 million per day. Actual last 7 days, average vaccination per day is 7.6 million per day. Actual vaccination on 5th December, that is yesterday, in previous 24 hours is 10.4 million per day. Daily shortfall in last 7 days, average vaccination shortfall per day is 19.9 million per day. Shortfall today, this means the yesterday, that is 5th of December, shortfall was 17.1 million per day. So this is the facts which I have told you. Although there are media reports where they say that more than 50% has been completed, but the fact is no booster dose has been given. But anyway, Mr. Kannan
Sir-
has given all the reports and he has given all the data. Paucity of time, I would not like to
Sir,
summarize.
so just one point I wanted to add. This most of the African countries vaccination is less than 10%.
No,
So-
I am coming to that point. I am coming to that point. Thank you very much, Mr. Kannan. Now my question goes to Mr. Ramnath Pradeep. Mr. Kannan, what he mentioned about the vaccination, and he said that African countries less than 10%. Now, this is the main concern. In India, if we would have invested more money in vaccination, or we would have mobilized more people to come for vaccination, then Indian economy would have not suffered like the economy of Europe or UK, I can say, or the USA. They are not, because they have emphasized more on vaccination. Today, the figures, actual figures, which I will be sending to you. If you have any problem, you can go on ndtv.com. Otherwise, I will send to you that very clearly we have only going to achieve 41%, 60%, and no booster dose, mind it. While in UK and other and South Africa, what he has mentioned, Mr. Kannan, is only 10%, and that's why the new mutant has come. Now, what the experts are saying, why you are only waiting for this mutant? Tomorrow, new mutant can come from India or anywhere, wherever the less vaccination is done, then what is going to happen? And even so, my point is, instead of spending here and there, if the government would have spent more on vaccination by coming out some schemes or what's not, that is the purview of the government. Do you think it would have given a boost to the economy more than now we are just thinking and discussing? What do you say about this, Mr. Pradeep?
Goel sir, I fully agree. And now the question is, as of today, our 34% or 36% are fully vaccinated. And around 51 to 52% are single dose, vaccination. So to that extent, I agree there is a gap. But what steps have been taken from the beginning? The moment the vaccination was found, it started rolling out. The people response to the vaccination has been very, very slow in certain sector of the society, not in all. But the government of India and the state government is fully aware of, and therefore they are expediting to cover the full vaccination. One thing I am also having the concern about the children vaccination, because the children is still nobody has talked about, because the approval for their vaccination has not yet come. So this is one area where it may impact the children as of today, because they have not been going to school. Wherever the schools have been open up, physical classes were there. In some of the areas, some of the states, there has been immediately they have shut down the schools. So this is one area which needs to be, if we are in a position to cover our even 80% of the population fully vaccinated by even 31st the March, before 31st March. Now we are talking about 31st December, which is not very far off. Even I am talking about if we are able to achieve at least 80 to 90% by 31st March 2021, we will be able to save a lot of life, and there will be resistance towards sustaining the any type of variant, whether it is
Okay. So
anything.
So do you think that if would have been invested more, or although you are saying, I am not going to discuss that point right now, but still the top priority should be the vaccination?
No, but I tell you, the government of India has not prevented from investing the money in the vaccination side. It is in certain sector, I'm still talking about certain sector of the society has not accepted, major population.
But Mr. Pradeep, the other argument comes that many people are waiting for the booster dose. There is no booster
No,
dose
booster
available.
dose is next level.
No,
Booster
the
dose is
booster
nobody
dose
has.
is not available. Those who has already anyway. But do you think again?
That is also being examined. That is also being examined because we have not been able to cover the 100%. Then booster dose is next.
Okay,
so booster dose is being examined and probably it may be allowed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramnath Pradeep. Now my question goes to Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik. Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik, you says that panic button. Now my question to you, and we know that in India, until unless we will not press the panic button, nobody is interested on many of them. No, I will not say nobody, but many of us are not adhering to the behavior which government or experts are saying. So don't you think we require that panic button? Otherwise, we know people still, if you go to the market, people are not wearing masks. People are not adhering to the social distancing. People are not doing the hand sanitization. Forget about that. Why not? This is the right time that when we know the nature of when Mr. Pradeep has rightly said, many of the section of society, they are not going for the vaccine. Vaccines are available, but they are not going. Similarly, until unless we will not press the panic button, they will not go. What do you say about this, Dr. Patnaik?
Yes, Mr. Goel, you have rightly said that panic button is necessary, but panic button is a double-edged sword in case of the COVID. Why I tell you? Well, when you say it is requires the COVID appropriate behavior from the population at large, it's quite correct. But if you are coming to the supply chain disruption, the cost is quite huge, and it has affected the Indian economy to very badly, even the world economy very badly because of the lockdown, the fear psychosis it created among the people, all those things. Now, having gone through this COVID situation for almost like a couple of years, now there is no need to go for a panic button, because if you again go for a panic button, what will happen is that the supply chain processes will get disrupted. The supply chain has got pull and push processes. The pull process is depending on the customer demand, response to the customer demand, and the push processes is in anticipation of customer demands. Now, if you want to keep the pull processes more towards the upstream side, then it's good for the economy.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's my point.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Patnaik. Now my question goes to Mr. Kannan. Mr. Kannan, do you think this is the right time the government should invest money directly to the consumer, to the public at large, so the demand will be there, which the UK or the USA or the other governments have done? So the demand of the supply, the demand was always there for the products, which was not in our case. The government is subsidizing or giving aids to the MSMEs or to the industries, not to the consumer directly in the form of cash subsidy or whatsoever. What do you say about this? Yes, Mr.
What you're referring to as a government like US, they did a lot of cash transfer to individuals, direct cash transfer. I think our government is doing for one segment, that is agriculturalists. They already announced a scheme of that 6,000 rupees per annum. So it is being given to them. And for the remaining 80 crore people, like I told you, they are getting free ration. And it has been extended up to the month of March. And I agree with you. Now the government has to focus more on these medicines. As I said, there are 5 or 6 companies which are approved in other countries where they say that these medicines could be very effective against the new virus. So government should expedite the process of allowing more companies to come into India and start selling their vaccines.
Okay. Although you mentioned about 6,000 rupees, but you also know, and everybody knows, that 6,000 annually comes out to 500 rupees per month, which is a peanut for creating the demand in the market. But anyway, that is a government has to see their own budget and all those things. So thank you very much. Today's program, which viewers you have seen today, all the experts have very, very clear opinion. First thing is that India need not to press the panic button. Secondly, we have learned from wave 1 and wave 2 many lessons, and that's why India is in a comfortable situation. Although there are few sectors which are going to suffer whether it is a hospitality sector, travel sector, entertainment sector, even the education sector, which is suffering badly because of the less vaccination of the children below 18 years. And so all those factors are bringing down the economic, but other sectors which are doing well, although automobile sector also Dr. Patnaik mentioned due to the shortage of chips. But one thing is very clear, until unless we ourselves as a civil society will not cooperate, if we are doing very careless behavior ourselves, then how we can blame only to the government or to the virus? Virus is going to be there. We have to see that we must get vaccination. We must get we must adhere all the protocols which has been prescribed by the experts, by the government, day in, day out. And if we will not do it, then when today is this virus, tomorrow some new virus will come, and then again we will be doing the same programs every day. Thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Karu News, as well as first shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring to you everyday new topic. And now, as you know, that Omicron is already there. So we have already started the series, and tomorrow in this series, Omicron impact on colleges. That will be in our media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. And our panelist are Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. He is the former visiting professor, IIM Lucknow and University of Texas at Dallas, USA. He is the senior director of Don Bosco Group, Bengaluru. Professor Dr. Pramod Pathak is a reputed international corporate trainer, public speaker, blogger, and columnist. He is the former professor and head of the management studies, IIT Dhanbad. So please tune in tomorrow for media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramnath Pradeep. Thank you very much, Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik. And thank you very much, Mr. Kannan, for giving your very, very expert views. And thank you all the viewers. Please adhere to those protocols prescribed, and then we will be able to stop this series. Otherwise, every day we have no other work to talk about this Omicron. Thank you very much. And thank you all the viewers for watching our show.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Goel sir.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Thank you.